Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's Tina. And today we are mood reading, and they are all new releases because if there's one thing I am at my core, it's a girl that loves new releases. So today I am sharing a reading vlog with you. This is taking place over the course of 2 weeks. I'm reading for 2 podcast episodes. One is our mood reader episode and the other is our new releases episode. And I'm just going all out. I think the releases for 2025 have been fantastic so far. And I have a pretty solid lineup, a pretty good mix of books that I'm planning on bringing for this. First is The Quiet Librarian by Eskens. This is a book about a librarian who finds out that her best friend had been murdered and goes to work toward figuring out who it is that killed her friend. This one's historical. It's also mystery thriller. The other books I'm bringing, I'm going to take to my Instagram and ask my followers which one they think I should read. I'm going to list some new ones that I've got from NetGalley and see what they pick for me. And then I need to read Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister or Gillian McAllister because that is my in real life or in-person book club's pick for the month. And then the last one is, I think, going to be Heartwood. That is Read with Jenna's pick for this month. And I just noticed that it has two things that I like. It's got a person that is a bird watcher who is a key witness in this case. You have a hiker that goes missing and she apparently knows something. So I like that angle. And I also noticed that the audiobook has a full cast narration, which I cannot resist. So I'm going to try that one. And hopefully it's a really solid reading experience. I will keep you posted, of course, as we go throughout. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave me a comment. I love hearing from you. But for now, let's get into reading. Okay, well, my baby has found me, so I will make this quick. I'm starting off this part of the reading vlog with a bit of a downer because I'm DNFing Heartwood by Amity, Gaige, and it's fine. This one really should have worked for me. I do like a missing person story. I do like a novel that's character driven, that's a little bit more literary of a mystery. And the audio was good. It was full cast narration. I can't explain it. I was just feeling detached and a little bit confused. I think I was meant to connect with the main character, the nurse who goes missing. And I do love, the setup for this. It was just not grabbing my attention in ways that I need it to right now. I also heard this one compared to God of the Woods by Liz Moore. And I'm actually happy that I read that because that I forgot I do have to read in this vlog as well because that is my in-person or my other book club's pick for this month. So I've got to read that one. That is like a 400 pager, so this should be fun. But I'm going to read God of the Woods, and I think they have parallels, missing people, outdoors, woodsy, somewhat in the same area, although I'm not 100% sure where Heartwood is set. But overall, I'm going to pause Heartwood. I know so many people that have reading tastes that are similar to me liked it, so I might try it again down the line, but I don't know that I'm really drawn to it. It was not keeping my attention, but I better get back to see what she wants. But next book we're going to try is God of the Woods, and I think, I'm pretty sure that'll be a better experience for me. Good morning. I'm reading another book on my quest to finish like 4 books in a week. And this one is God of the Woods by Liz Moore. You know it. You've heard of it last year, especially if you're in the mystery thriller space. This book was everywhere. And yet for some reason I did not read it until now. I know the reason. It's because Hannah brought it to Book Talk, etc. And sometimes it's hard to read books that my co-hosts have brought. But now is the time and I am loving it. Now, I actually did not really know what God of the Woods was all about. I knew it was a missing person story, and I knew it took place on a camp. I also knew that the girl who is missing in this story, her brother disappeared many years before. So you kind of had a double missing person story, but it is so complex. And my God, when you read books by authors that are really, really skilled, you just know, oh, okay, I'm reading something different. I can totally see why this won so many, awards and best of lists last year. I actually started it on audio. It's narrated by Saskia Marleveld, who is one of my all-time favorite audiobook narrators. You've got to read her. She does male and female voices really well, to the point where I was looking, I'm like, is there a male narrator on this too? Because she does both really, really well. But it is I actually had to switch from audio to print to get my bearings because it's a book set up in 5 parts and it switches point of view a lot, and it also switches time of year, like year that it's set in. So it's set kind of in between the 60s and I don't know, mid to late 70s. And it's in the Adirondack Mountains, which is a word I have a hard time saying. But it's set at this camp, and the Van Laar family is the family that owns it. And then you find out their son disappeared 12 years ago, and now their daughter is missing throughout this story. This is a long novel. It's not one where you can just breeze through it. Although I will say I'm reading it over the course of like 2 or 3 days because I want to. It's just that good. But you do have to pay attention. But once you get settled, there's really not all that many characters. You have Louise, who is one of the camp counselors on duty when Barbara went missing, and she went missing from her like camp. You've got Trisha, who was her roommate. You've got the mother, so Barbara's mother has a point of view. And then later on in the story, you've got Judita, who is the detective. I love her. She's a fantastic character. Now, I'm almost done with this book. I have about an hour and a half left, and you could not peel this book from my cold, dead hands. It's really good. It's just layered and complex, and they're laying the trap or laying the clues out for the readers so well. And what I'm loving is that the readers know things that the characters don't know, but the characters know things that the readers don't know because they're told off the page. And so it's just this really fun reading experience. It's well paced. It's very well characterized. It's sad. I mean, it's, you really come to feel for all of the characters. Barbara's mother is easy to write off as this sort of despicable character because you find out Barbara struggled at home, but also you understand that she's gone through pretty intensive trauma. And the author just does a really good job with giving us that compassion. I am so invested in this, and I'm really happy I'm reading it. I will check back in when I'm done, but I can't imagine that this is not 5 stars. Well, I have done it. I have finished The God of the Woods, and honestly, I am delighted. I see why it won all of the accolades. It won a Lolly from Book of the Month as the best book of the year. And honestly, I think this one was so expertly crafted. I don't know that I have anything else to add from my check-in like a couple of hours ago. I did indeed finish the ending all in one sitting, and I really enjoyed it. I have the cover on upside down, so excuse me. But what I like best about this is that the ending, you're really sort of getting all of the loose ends tied up. I feel like I don't have any questions after reading this book. And I also am walking away with this feeling of melancholy and sadness, but also a tiny bit of hope. And I think that is such a fine line to walk. So Liz Moore, bravo. This one is excellent. Obviously, I don't need to tell you that. I also think this one is coming out on paperback soon. So if you don't have the hard copy, you can get it on paperback. I am discussing this with one of my friends this evening. We have a book club, so that should be a good conversation. And I have a really good comp for this one. It's more of an under the radar pick that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. And it's called Wolf at the Table by Adam Rapp. And that one is very similar to this in that it's loosely historical fiction mystery, but you're following this case or this thing that happened throughout several decades, and you come to know each of the characters. It's really dark in places, but also sort of gives you not a sense of hope, but gives you a sense of closure at the end. So if you liked God of the Woods, Wolf at the Table, Adam Rapp, I think is a great comp. Good morning. It is a new day. And I did not even get to introduce my next book to you because I started it yesterday. We went to the zoo and I literally did nothing else yesterday but go to the zoo and read this book. Then this morning I had to finish it. The book is Tell Me What You Did by Carter Wilson. And I have been really in the mood for a good thriller, one that's going to hook me, one that's a page turner, one that doesn't have me questioning, do I like this? Do I not? Is this dumb? And this delivered. I am so happy. When I tell you I was sweaty reading this, I was sweaty reading this, especially the last, quarter. I could not turn the pages fast enough. And this book introduced me to a new term called a ripper. And that is when a book is so compelling and so fast-paced, you're flipping the pages frantically, so fast to where it feels like you're going to rip the pages. So I'm going to be using that from now on, but Tell Me What You Did is definitely a ripper. And what it's about is Poe, who is a true crime podcaster, and she has this podcast, which is a great idea, actually. It's called Tell Me What You Did. And basically, she invites people to come on her podcast and confess their crimes. And these things can be innocuous, like stealing somebody's dog, or it can be as serious as murder. And she gets all kinds on this podcast. Her boyfriend Kip is her producer, and the two of them have this really, really successful show. There's a catch though. Of course, people aren't going to come on admitting to committing murder with their identities. So she gets to see them on camera, but only the audio is released, and then 6 months later she deletes the video, yada, yada, yada. The reason why she got interested in true crime is very compelling, because her mother was murdered. And you know this from the beginning. And Poe is this very complex, interesting character. She is somebody that is definitely damaged, but and makes reckless decisions, but is not dumb at all. She's definitely somebody that has really fought for her semblance of peace. I'm going to put this down. I don't know why I'm holding it. Poe is this interesting character to follow because she's sort of unpredictable. She's not really super likable, but she's not trying for likable. And I like that about her. And so she's doing this podcast, and then one day this man comes on and confesses to the crime of killing her mother. And she is disgusted, of course, but knows that this can't be true because years ago she killed the man that killed her mother. And that's the setup that's in the synopsis. The book is told in a really interesting way. First of all, you've got these short chapters. And I sort of have a love-hate relationship with short chapters. Sometimes I need a little more time than 2-3 pages to sink my teeth in, but it does get you turning the pages. So I see the appeal of it. And once I figured out what was going on and like how the structure was going to go, I loved it, because what you're getting basically is this live stream. And it's between Poe, this man claiming to have killed her mother, and you find out that he, and I won't say what, but you find out things. And that takes place on Halloween. And it's a live stream. And it's very short little clips in between where he flips the table and is interviewing her. And then you have present day, and it starts like, we'll say, I don't know, October 20th or so. And that's when she's getting to know him. She's interviewing other guests. And then, you know, he ends up coming on and telling her who he is, and then basically forces her into doing this live show. And you find out why he's so set on having her do this live show, and that is a part of the fun. So the book goes between present day, which is leading up to this live show, and then snippets from the live show. I loved this book. There's 2 great animal characters in this, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say they're both fine in the end, so they don't get killed. Thank God. I was worried about that. This takes place in New England. This book would be perfect for fall. As you maybe can tell, it's spring when I'm recording this, but if you want a book that's perfect for Halloween, for fall, this would be incredible. And I loved it. I'm giving this book 5 stars. I was on the edge of my seat, and I don't want to say much else because obviously spoilers, but just know that I was very, very satisfied, and this is a true ripper, and I'm so happy. This one's published in 2025, so it's still relatively new. It will be on my favorite thrillers of 2025 list, and I am pumped. I've never read Carter Wilson before. He has this big backlist, including a book called Mr. Tender's Daughter. And what's interesting is that a character from that makes an appearance here, so they're set in the same world, and I kind of like that. And I don't want to say much else, but if you've read this or you do read this on my recommendation, let me know, because I loved it. I had such a fun time with it, and now I'm feeling a book hangover come on, and I'm a little bit sad because it's over. And that's the trouble with reading, is you read this wonderful book and ultimately it comes to an end. But just know that I read this 423 page book in the span of 24 hours and I regret nothing. Hello there. It is a very rainy day here in Chicagoland, but I wanted to check in with an update on my current read. It is The Quiet Librarian by Eskens. And I'm actually pretty far into it. So this one is about a librarian who is living this very quiet life in Minnesota, and she is not all that she appears to be on the surface, because you find out that many years ago she had fought in the Bosnian War, and you find out what made her join up with these efforts and what happened to her family. And frankly, she is this badass character who's been living in hiding for something like 35 years. And the only reason she comes out is because a detective comes to her place of work and lets her know that her best friend had been murdered. And her best friend is somebody that was also a soldier with her, and she becomes obsessed with trying to figure out what happened to her. Her friend also had a young son who is now in her care, and she considers this woman family, and there's nothing she wouldn't do for her. So she takes up back and kind of steps back into her old ways and decides to try and figure out what happened to her friend. I'm enjoying this very much. It's almost historical fiction, right? It's kind of this mystery / historical fiction, and I feel like you are learning quite a bit about the Bosnian War. You're learning a bit about the devastation that happened there and how ruthless some of these people are, and the fight that folks had to put up with in order to stay alive. And it's really well written. This is an author I've read once before, and it was the same thing, sort of a historical novel, but also a mystery, and it was very well plotted and paced. I'm doing the audio for this one, and I think it's excellent narration. I'm not sure how to place the accent. The main character, her name is Hannah. She is a badass and definitely somebody that you're going to want to root for. If I could come up with a comp for this one, it's reminding me a lot of The Huntress by Quinn, which I really enjoyed. This one is sort of that same action, but I will say this one is half contemporary, half historical. So you're halfway in the book, back when they were at war, and then they're halfway through present day trying to figure out what happened to her friend. I don't have much left to read. I think I will finish this today, so I will check back in when I'm finished. But I would say if you are somebody that likes your mystery thrillers that are well written and maybe a little slower, a little less plotty and more character focused, this one could be a good pick. All right, well, I just finished this book, and I have to say this book did something that I don't always see. It got better as it went on. The more I read this, the more I loved it. For no real reason other than at first I was kind of not sure what we were getting. This is a mystery thriller, and it was slow moving at first until sort of maybe the halfway point, and then I really got into it. What I love about this is you are sort of seeing Hannah as a person when she was younger, when she was in the war and forced to do things that were unthinkable, but you also see her coming into being a badass. This woman is absolutely ruthless for very good reason. If you like a revenge story, I think this one's a really good one, because I love my revenge stories, but I need like a legitimate reason. I can't have people just mad for decades over seemingly small slights, you know what I mean? This person has a very good reason for wanting revenge, and the book builds to this awesome climax. Of course, I'm not going to spoil it, but you get to see everything come together in a very satisfying way. And what I was going to say is this book does something that I don't always see, is that the ending really bumped it up for me. A lot of times I will be enjoying a book and then the ending doesn't work and I'm like, oh, okay. And it sometimes brings the rating down. This one is the opposite. It actually brought my rating up. I think right now I'm sitting at like a 4.25 for this one. I think it was really well done, meticulously researched, and really a great ending with characters you'll root for. This protagonist is excellent, and I am satisfied. I'm very glad I read it. I'm not sure how I'd classify this. I think it's more of a mystery thriller than anything else, maybe historical mystery. It's not a thriller, maybe historical suspense. I'm very picky with how I define things, clearly, but I don't want to call it a thriller and have you pick it up and tell me it's too slow, because it is slow, and that's okay. That's a part of it, because you get this really rich history and sort of an understanding of this time and place. I also had a conversation with somebody else who told me that this would qualify as historical fiction, and she gave this pretty great definition. She had said that it's historical fiction if the story could not take place without that historical event happening. And in that case, I think you would classify this one as historical fiction. But I thought that was interesting because in this case, yes, you would not have this story had it not been for the war in Bosnia. Like, you wouldn't be able to have this story without that, right? But you're spending half the time in this book in the present day, if not more, maybe 60% present day, 40% past. So that's what made me not bring this to our historical fiction episode, because I was like, I don't know if it really qualifies, but I'm being talked around to it qualifying as historical fiction. Regardless, does it matter? No. How am I classifying this? It's a book that I recommend that you should read. We are moments away from it being warm enough to be in my 3 seasons room full time. So I'm very excited about that, but I am not coming here to tell you about my wood room. I'm coming to tell you about The Missing Half by Ashley Flowers. I just finished this one a few hours ago, and I cannot wait to discuss it. So I did not know much about Ashley Flowers. I've never listened to Crime Junkie. Frankly, the only thing I heard was that her initial book, what is it, All Good People Here, is very similar to the JonBenet Ramsey case. It sort of turns me off when thrillers are a little too close to real things that happen. So I was a bit ambivalent about The Missing Half, but I got it in the mail. I just decided to pick it up, and I'm honestly really, really glad I did. This one's about two sisters who are the sisters of missing people. So you've got Nick Monroe. She is in Mishawaka, Indiana, sort of in the Michianda region. I think that's how you say it. And she is kind of struggling. She's working this dead-end job. She works at a place that's very similar to Chuck E. Cheese called Funland, and she's been there for the past 7 years, ever since her sister died, and her life just sort of went off the rails. And then one day, this woman shows up at her work, and it turns out her sister's disappearance is a cold case as well. So the two of them try and work together to try and figure out what it is that happened to their sisters, because they believe that the two cases are linked. Now, these two women are very different. Jenna is very much an analytical mind. She has been ruminating over this case for the past 7 years and trying to figure out where her sister is and what happened to her. Whereas Nick sort of just let it go and didn't let it go. She never forgot her sister, but also spiraled and remained sort of in this arrested development, right? So you've got these two women that are working together, and I normally don't love amateur detective novels, but this one was done really, really well. Honestly, I might give it 5 stars. I loved it that much. Now, this is more of a mystery novel. It's not a thriller necessarily. It's not super in your face or anything like that, but I was hooked. I was really compelled, and I loved to read along as the two women sort of went back 7 years and figured out what the connections were between their sisters. Did they know each other? And I have to tell you, I did not know where this was going. I did a combination print and audio with this one, and I thought it was absolutely wonderfully narrated. Saskia Marlaveld narrates, who is one of my all-time favorite audiobook narrators, so I shouldn't be surprised, but I overall highly recommend this book. If you like sister stories, if you like missing women stories, if you like small town stories, and if you like to root for characters that are sort of a mess and you really want them to get their act together, but you're sort of not sure if that's going to be in the cards for them, then you should pick this one up. I'm really happy that I read it. This one comes out next month on May 6th. And I should also say it is co-written by an author named Alex Keister. So it's not just Ashley Flowers, although I think she's the bigger name because of her podcast. But I had a really good time with this one. It's sad. It kept me guessing. And the ending was very satisfying. And that's all I'll say. Another day, another shot of me in my car, but I am coming on here to check in with my current read. It is Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister, or Gillian McAllister, I am not sure. And I have not read this author before. A quick look in the beginning tells me that she has a fair amount of books, and I think primarily she writes in the psychological suspense space. I did not pick up the one that was very popular, that was a Reese pick, Wrong Place, Wrong Time, because I don't love time travel tropes, but this one I thought sounded really good. So this one is about a wife named Camilla who is living her life. They have a 9-month-old, she and her husband, and one day, it's her first day back at work. She works in publishing, and her husband, Luke, is an author. She's going back to work and dropped her girl off at daycare. And then all of a sudden she gets a phone call, and it changes her life, because it turns out that her husband, Luke, is holding 3 people hostage in this remote warehouse somewhere in London. And he is basically holding these people at gunpoint. And this is very against what she understands to be his character. But she looks at the CCTV and decides, yes, that's really him. And so this book's actually broken up into a couple of different parts. And I kind of like that. I like that we're not just following the story straight, from start to finish, but Act 1, you have the siege. And then I just began Act 2, which starts 7 years later. And so You figure out what happened during the siege, and then it catches up 7 years later. And then there is an Act 3, which is, I think, another 7 years later. So you kind of cover quite a bit of time in this one. The other point of view that you are following is that of Niall, who is a hostage negotiator. And it looks like we get to hear from him throughout. So primarily you're hearing from Cam, this man's wife, and then Niall. And so far, so good. It's very suspenseful, very cinematic. It's sort of reminding me a little bit of TJ Newman's writing in that you're like sort of in the moment with these characters. Your pulse is pounding. I will say it was a little bit repetitive. You know, this first 130 pages or so, you're still in this hostage situation, which was quite a bit of time to be in the same space, but it was interesting. I'm intrigued. I also I'm curious to know what's going on. I'm curious to see what happens to Camilla and Luke. Obviously, they were very in love, and she is traumatized by the fact that her husband did this, was holding these people hostage, and now she's sort of trying to rebuild her life in the second act. But audio is pretty good. You have British narration, and I'm enjoying it. You know, nothing really crazy to report yet. I don't exactly know how I feel, but I am enjoying the ride. It's an easy listen or an easy read. All right, I just finished Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister, and that was good. It was a fine time. I think if you are somebody that wants to read more mystery thriller, but don't like things that are overly gory, this could really work for you. I don't think there was any real thing that was super gory that happened. Obviously, there's moments of suspense, but this was pretty tame as far as mystery suspense thrillers are concerned. And there's 4 parts. I actually thought there were 3. There are 4 parts. Part 1 was propulsive when they're in the hostage situation. Parts 2 and 3 were a little slower. It's about Camilla trying to figure out her life, etc. And then part 4 was decent, but it was pretty short. You're figuring out most of the plot by the time you get to that point. I think Camilla and the hostage negotiator were very sympathetic characters. I actually liked that. His name is Niall. I enjoyed that. I liked those characters. Sometimes with mystery thriller, I'm like, oh, these characters are dumb. But I liked both of the ones that we're following in this case. This is an emotional story. And she really puts the readers in the situation where you're thinking, okay, what would I do if the man or person that I loved more than anybody maybe did this horribly bad thing, but I never got any resolution? How would you feel? Would you still love that person? So, especially if you had kids with them. So I really enjoyed that element, thinking about the what if. We are doing this for my in-person book club later today, actually. So I'm curious to see what everybody else thinks. That is a group, half read a lot, half don't read that much, and sort of we tend to have different opinions about the books that we read. So I'm interested to see what they think. My prediction is that everyone will say they liked it. I don't see how you could hate this book. You could say it's boring and a little slow, because those things are both true, but I think the payoff is there. I felt like the ending was fully fleshed out, and I recommend it. I enjoyed it. I'm going to give this 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm glad that I read it. I will definitely try this author again. Overall, I had a good time with this. All right, really quick. I'm going to wrap it up here in the car. I'm not driving. I'm waiting for my mom to come because we're on our way to Easter lunch. But thank you so much for being here. This was such a good reading span of weeks. I fear it has put me in a reading slump. So let me know in the comments what your favorite thriller has been so far that you've read this year, because I am on a roll and I need more, frankly. But don't forget, like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.